The Delhi High Court has delivered a major setback for the Aam Aadmi Party, where the petition challenging the manner in which the Delhi Chief Minister was arrested by the Enforcement Directorate on the 21st of March has been dismissed by the Delhi High Court. Now, there are many legal ramifications that could happen around it. The arguments that were being put forth by the Aam Aadmi Party or from the lawyers of the Aam Aadmi Party has absolutely been demolished by the court. This entire verdict could actually be seen as a setback for the Aam Aadmi Party and definitely as a shot in the arm for the BJP. To talk about the legal ramifications and how the future course of action that could be taken by the Aam Aadmi Party and what does this judgment actually mean for this entire case and for Arvind Kejriwal, I am being joined by Ananya Bhatnagar, our legal correspondent. He was inside the court. We'll try and discuss the integrities of this entire order that has come to the fore and how it is going to impact the case going forward from here. Ananya, the court made very scathing observations today. They clearly drew a line that Enforcement Directorate is not a political party, and the arguments that were being put forth by the Aam Aadmi Party that this is nothing but a political witch hunt seems absolutely being demolished. How do you see this and what could be the ramifications of this?
Well, definitely, it was a lengthy pronouncement that happened before Justice Swankanta Sharma, very clearly going on to say the arrest per se of Arvind Kejriwal is completely legal. There was enough material available with the Enforcement Directorate when it comes to the contours of Section 19 of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. It had material evidence to show that Mr. Arvind Kejriwal was involved in the criminal conspiracy and had received kickbacks, and very, very clearly and categorically the court also said that, this is a matter of, this is a criminal matter. This is not a matter of political inclination. This is not a matter of political affiliation, and it's not a case, and yet I quoted from the judgment, it's not a case between the central government and Arvind Kejriwal. It's a case where Arvind Kejriwal versus Enforcement Directorate, and that's exactly the distinction that the court carved out and very clearly stated that there can't be two laws, one for the common citizen and one for the privileged people like the Chief Minister of the National Capital Territory of Delhi. But the most important aspect that comes out of this judgment is the Section 70 applicability of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, where vicarious liability, which basically in simple terms mean that not only as an individual, not only as Arvind Kejriwal himself, but also as the national convener of the Aam Aadmi Party, Arvind Kejriwal had committed this offence.
So yes, I was coming to this. So the court had very clearly stated that the Delhi Chief Minister was involved in this entire alleged scam, not only in his individual capacity, but also as the convener of the Aam Aadmi Party. What does this mean for the Aam Aadmi Party and how will this impact the arguments in front of the higher courts?
Well, definitely it is a big setback that has not only come for Mr. Kejriwal but for the whole Aam Aadmi Party as a whole, because it would have a larger ramifications. First, it will give a dual role to Mr. Arvind Kejriwal. He will be liable as an individual and also as in fact the national convener of the party, because the Aam Aadmi the Enforcement Directorate had been saying in its remand notes submitted before the court and also before the reply before the Delhi High Court as well, that Aam Aadmi Party was a major beneficiary of this whole Liquorgate saga and had done this money laundering through Arvind Kejriwal. Now, what are the legal ramifications for, in fact, the Aam Aadmi Party? The bank accounts could be attached by the Enforcement Directorate. Proceedings can follow against the Aam Aadmi Party because it would be considered now as a company, as an association of persons, and then there can be, attachments that could take place. The assets could be attached. The bank accounts could actually be attached by the Enforcement Directorate. But would that happen is something that the Enforcement Directorate would have to decide because it's an investigation agency. But this order, this lengthy judgment, how much of it does it play up before the Supreme Court is something that would be interesting to see, because it's a very, very reasonable judgment, and for each contour of argument that in fact Kejriwal's legal team had actually put forth, the court has gone on into much detail and passed a very reasonable judgment.
That's very true. Another argument that was demolished by the court today, that this is being done as a political witch hunt. The Aam Aadmi Party has continuously maintained that this is nothing but a political witch hunt. The arrest has been made to make sure that the Delhi Chief Minister is not allowed to participate in the democratic process of elections, and that has also been demolished by the court today, where they have clearly stated that this has nothing to do with the elections, and since the Delhi Chief Minister did not abide by the summons that was given to him by the Enforcement Directorate, hence the Aam Aadmi Party cannot question the timing. So this another argument is going to have many ramifications is what I feel. How do you see this argument going forward, and what do you think is now the defense that could be put forth by the Aam Aadmi Party?
If you remember, we were there at Arvind Kejriwal's residence when he was arrested. from the day one when this whole Liquorgate saga is broken, the Aam Aadmi Party has been putting on this defense that, this is a political witch hunt, this is a political vendetta. But we've seen Manish Sisodia's bail going to the Supreme Court, and not only his bail, but he had filed a review to that bail, he filed a curative to that bail. All of that were dismissed. Sanjay Singh, another leader of the Aam Aadmi Party who's been alleged to be involved in this particular case, he got a bail only after the Enforcement Directorate gave a concession, said that we are not opposing his bail plea at this particular stage, and hence he was granted a bail in this particular case. Next leader is Arvind Kejriwal. The High Court is very, very clear that his arrest was illegal in nature. He was involved in this whole criminal conspiracy, and this whole argument of political vendetta has been dubbed down by the court, clearly saying that it is a case between the center. It is not a case between the central government and the Enforcement Directorate and Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, but a case between Arvind Kejriwal and the Enforcement Directorate. And not only this, court was very, very clear that the judgments that are passed by any of these courts, whether it's the High Court, whether it's the lower court, or in fact the Supreme Court itself, these are on the point of law and not on the point of political affiliation, and that is what makes it very, very clear and dubs down the complete argument of the Aam Aadmi Party legal team and all the Aam Aadmi Party leaders that this is a case of political vendetta.
Yes, this is a very scathing order that has come to the fore. Ananya, there are other legal remedies that the Aam Aadmi Party could take. One of them is applying for bail. They still haven't applied for bail. The order that has come to the fore from the Delhi High Court, how much of it will have an impact on the bail arguments whenever that is put up in front of the court?
Well, the next clear remedy that is available to them is to challenge this particular order before the Supreme Court, challenging his arrest before the Supreme Court itself. Because if you remember that earlier he had filed a particular petition on around days after his arrest, but he took back that particular application, and now again he'll have to go back to the Supreme Court challenging this particular order. And very clearly and categorically, this order can have a lot of ramifications, not only on his bail application but also on the bail application of K. Kavita, whose interim bail has already been turned down by a trial court, because this order has very, very clearly stated that there was a criminal conspiracy that was going on, and Arvind Kejriwal was very well a part and parcel to it, and there is material evidence, because at this preliminary stage the evidence is not to be tested. At this particular state, the evidentiary value of a witness is not to be tested, but what is to be tested is what material does the agency have and how much of it does it play up before the courts when it comes to
another big argument that was being put forth from the side of the opposition or from the side of the Aam Aadmi Party is that the people who have turned approvers, they had turned approvers after probably getting some sort of benefits from the Bharatiya Janata Party, or even providing them some sort of benefits, and that is how they turned approver. Now this has been replied to very strongly by the court, in which they have said that the process of turning approver is being done by the court and not by the Enforcement Directorate. So if you question this, you are actually questioning the court. So how do you see this? And yet another argument that seems to be demolished by the court itself.
Well, definitely, the process of approvers is something that has been going on in the criminal jurisprudence for quite a long time. It's been there since the inception of the Indian Penal Code and the CRPC as well. And very clear and categorically, in famous cases, in big cases, approvers play a very, very important role. Whistleblowers, approvers are people who actually come out, who are accused. Approvers are basically accused, who say that we want to turn into a witness and we will tell as to what had actually happened. The test of these statements can only happen at the stage of trial, and that's exactly what the court has said. And approvership or a status of approver or granting a pardon is something that is not done by the agency itself. It's done by the courts after looking into the 164 statement. So how how accused basically becomes an approver is that a accused approaches the agency, says that I have evidence to give, I will give you evidence, but I need something in exchange. That is pardon. I need certain some kind of a lure to actually give this particular evidence, and then the matter reaches the court. The statement is recorded before a magistrate, which is also a court, which it is recorded under 164 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, which is admissible in the court of law. And these statements are actually admissible in the state of law, though they can be questioned, but that can only happen at the stage of trial, not at the stage of investigation per se itself.
So yes, this was one of the biggest setbacks to the Aam Aadmi Party since this case was started initially by the Enforcement Directorate or was being investigated initially by the Enforcement Directorate. Now finally the Delhi High Court has come out and given its verdict, which had challenged in a plea which had challenged the arrest of Arvind Kejriwal. The next step is that the Aam Aadmi Party is going to go ahead and challenge this judgment in front of the Supreme Court as early as tomorrow itself. The Aam Aadmi Party continues to maintain that the Enforcement Directorate has nothing to show proof of, that how Arvind Kejriwal is involved in this, but that is something that could be argued on a later stage of this entire investigation, and this is what the court has felt as well. Now, this is one of the biggest setback to the Aam Aadmi Party and definitely a big shot in the arm for the BJP. Now, over the next few days, it remains to be seen that after moving the Supreme Court, what are the other legal remedies that the Aam Aadmi Party could undertake to make sure that some sort of relief is provided to Arvind Kejriwal, which definitely seems very unlikely at this point in time.